So I've worked in marketing for 15 years. Most recently, I was a CMO at a Series B tech company. Currently, I'm a fractional CMO and growth consultant. I help B2B companies acquire customers and grow their revenue. I'm based in the US, out of Chicago, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And I try to host one LinkedIn audio event every week. Steph, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stef. I'm Italian, but I'm currently based in Bali. I'm the founder of Lead, which is a lead generation community for entrepreneurs on the work with LinkedIn. And I'm also founder of the Elegant Lead Generation Accelerator. I am what I love to talk about, and what you see a lot of my on my content is DM strategies to convert strangers into clients. And yeah, great to be part of this, Andrew, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about this. It's a relevant topic, and I believe we had 200 people register for it. So that tells us that there's a lot of interest in
Yeah,
this topic.
yeah,
So,
that's great.
so Steph, I'm curious, like, how did you get started with LinkedIn DMs? Was it to get leads for your business or for your clients?
Yeah, so no, I actually started. So it was probably around was January 2000 or maybe February 2022 when I started working on LinkedIn. I think I launched a few automated campaigns that didn't go well. I think I wasn't even using my profile. I was working for a startup based in Singapore, and I ran a few automated campaigns that didn't really amount to anything. But after that, basically I did a few freelance gigs, and again I like tested LinkedIn, which never really worked for my clients when I used LinkedIn through my clients' accounts. And then it was like September 2, where when I took it was actually August when I took LinkedIn very seriously, and I started doing DMs and content, and that it's when it really started to work for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a common thing people do when they start either doing LinkedIn or just doing outreach in general. They typically try to automate it, try to use software and take a spray and pray approach. And then I think they realize that doesn't work, or it's not yielding the results they want. And I know that's typically when they start looking into how to either do proper
Yeah.
outreach or proper LinkedIn engagement.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you have to go through that at some point through bad
Yeah.
coded bounds before you make it work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like through making some of those mistakes, it's how you end
Yeah.
up figuring it out. So, Steph, I'm curious, what are some common mistakes people make with DMs on LinkedIn?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I would say one of the most common ones that I still see to this day, it's probably the infamous pitch slap. So when you basically present your services or your company to somebody in via connection request or really in mail, that doesn't really work well. But also there are some other like more subtle things. For example, asking for challenges to people when you send a connection request or a message. And I got some of them from some people in my network when they asked me, "Hey, Steph, what is your challenge with X?" Assuming that people have a challenge, it doesn't feel very nice. It's, hey, first start a conversation with me before asking me if I have any kind of challenge. I might not even have any. So yeah, and to another common mistake that I see is that people tend really not to focus on starting a conversation with their prospects, but they see their prospects as a profile with a dollar sign for them. It was like they don't consider that there might be another human being on the other side of their internet connection or whatever, and they treat that as like a transitional kind of like relationship when they want to very quickly get to the point where they jump on a call or they offer a call to their prospects, and that tend not to work really well. They might work well every now and again, but it, again, doesn't really allow for long-term relationships, doesn't really allow for any kind of like nurturing that you can do through LinkedIn, because that's a really cool thing about doing outbound on LinkedIn is that you can send a connection request, and it doesn't matter how that goes, but if you get that connection, if you get it accepted, you can use your content to nurture that particular prospect. And even if you do not convert them right away, you might be able to convert them in the future through your content. Yeah, I hope this answers your question, Andrew.
Yeah, I think those are great points. I think you're right. I think asking for a challenge or like I get these DMs too, like, are you struggling with X or are you trying to
Yeah.
do more of X? It feels maybe it's one step up from getting a pitch slap right away, but it just seems like a more savvy way to pitch slap because then I know when I answer that, I feel like then I'm going to get the pitch slap or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, and also another thing is when people ask you very generic questions. One that I really dislike is when people ask me, "Hey, what are you up to?" or "What have you been working on lately?" So, you should never ask a question that whose answer you can find just by looking very quickly at your prospect profile. Or
yeah,
when
I
people ask, yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, no, go ahead.
Yeah, or when people, for example, ask me, "Hey, Steph, how are you?" or "How are you?" It's fine. It depends on the context. So probably that's not a good example. But when also people ask me, "Yeah, what niche are you in?" Again, you can go and look at my profile and see that. Or when people ask me like very generic question, "Hey, what books have you read lately?" That's, I don't know, for some reason I feel like I'm wasting my time and starting a conversation from that particular space. And it feels like either a pitch slap would come, or the conversation will be a waste of time. Always keep the conversation in the business space, even if it's not starting in a space in your space and related to the benefit that you sell. But my suggestion would always be to start a conversation that is business related already.
Yeah, I like that a lot. When I get, hey, how are you? Or how's your day going? Or things like, yeah, even what are your favorite books? I always get annoyed by those questions, but I didn't understand like why. It would just not feel good. And then when I thought
Yeah.
about it, I realized it's a couple of reasons. One is some of those questions require mental energy for me to answer. If
Oh
I have
yeah.
to think about my favorite books, I might as well write a post about it. It just requires me to think, and this is someone necessarily I don't know. I don't want to put in the energy to think. And then the other part
Yeah.
of it is it's almost like they're trying to get me to carry the conversation versus them carrying it. And again, if this is someone I knew, I'm okay with carrying the conversation. But if someone I don't really know that well, it feels like, well, you're reaching
Yeah.
out. You should be trying to move this conversation forward or at least try to carry it a little bit.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Steph, what are some of the elements then that make for great direct messages on LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's really great question. What I would do, so every time that I do outbound, what I do is basically I leverage what I call touch points. So a touch point, it's basically something that you can relate your message to start a conversation. For example, your prospect is posting content, right? So what I usually do, I comment on their content and I create a connection request that leverages that particular piece of content, but also my comments related to that piece of content. So that becomes probably hyper personalized. That might be a good term to define this kind of connection request. And that tends to be accepted because your question, every time you ask a question to your prospect, is the question has to be indirect, not directly related to the benefit that you're selling, but can be, for example, if you're targeting a business owner and his last post was about the importance of having a coach. You say, "Hey, I really like your latest post on the importance of having a coach. I completely agree with you. And also you create relatability. You basically say, "Hey, I had a coach for the past 3 years," which is true, right? In my case, and then the next question should be, why do you think most people in maybe they are agency owners, why do you think not many agency owners rely on a coach? So those are the kinds of connection requests that get accepted and that allow you to start a profitable conversation with your lead. And you can use, look, if somebody's not posting content, but so I always recommend to target somebody that is active on LinkedIn. It's not that important that they're posting content. If they're commenting on other people's stuff, that's perfect. What you do the same by leveraging the content that they comment on and their specific comments on that piece of content. And again, you can ask a question in the exact same way. If they have no content, they're not very active, they're probably not really good leads. But if you still want to target them, what I recommend you do is to basically leverage their bio, their background image, or their experience. For example, you notice that in their experience section, they went from working for a boutique like agency to becoming directors in a company, in an agency that has over 3,000 employees. What you do, you can ask them, hey, and you maybe are a sales consultant, so you work with shortening the sales cycle or really automating their process. What you can ask them is, hey, I noticed that you went from working for a small company to a bigger company. What are the main differences in how did the sales cycle change from one company to the other? And you can start a conversation from there.
Yeah, I love that. And what I'm hearing in there is three things. You're creating multiple touch points, ideally through commenting first and then sending the connection request or the DM. You're also creating context because of your comment now, there's some context there. So the connection request or the DM probably feels more natural at that point. And then you're asking questions out of curiosity and almost like very insightful questions that, like, if someone is an expert, I think in your example, like in sales or whatever field they're in, that they'd love to respond to that or touch on that point.
Yeah, 100%. You can replicate the same strategy with automation. It's not as effective, but you can aim for 60% and 70% acceptance and 70% plus response rate.
Got
Depending on your industry and of course your prospects, but those are achievable figures.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, I think what I'm hearing here too, and this is one way I try to think about it, is it's not different than how you'd start a conversation in a group setting or if you're at a networking event and you're just getting to know someone. It sounds like these are the kind of questions you would be asking them to start a friendly conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Your questions have to be relevant for them. They have to be indirect, not like directly related to their problems or their goals with their business or anything like that. And also have to be business related. Those are really the three elements that all good connection requests or all good questions when that are aimed at starting a conversation with a potential prospect should have.
Got it. I love that. So then, Steph, do you have a system for managing your DMs and sending DMs to new contacts?
Yeah, what I do, I have my CRM on Notion. And look, I was about to try something different, but I'm actually going back to Notion every time because I think it's very flexible. So what I do, it's a very simple system that I have. Every day I aim to start 10 new conversations with potential prospects on LinkedIn. And what I do, if I have enough inbound traffic, which nowadays I do have, I basically reach out to the warmer source of traffic that I have. For example, followers and inbound connection requests is warm traffic to me. And then I have, hot traffic. I have warm traffic as people that interact with my content. And then I have cold traffic that is profile visit. So I always prioritize the warmest source of traffic. And what I do, I send them a connection request and I simply ask them, hey, thank you for following my profile. I appreciate it. Was there something about it that resonated with you? And that's how I start my conversation with prospects. If I don't have enough traffic, what I do, or really what I used to do, is to combine inbound and outbound strategies. So I have maybe 5 good prospects that came to my profile through my content. So I send them 5 connection requests. And then I look for other active people, other active potential profile prospects in my space. And what I do, I go to, for example, some, let's call it competitors or some peers that are targeting a similar demographic and solving a similar problem. For example, I don't know, Richard Moore or Justin Van Brugel. What I do, I go through their posts and I pick people that liked or commented on their post, and I send them my connection request. So I build my outbound strategies on them, because in this way I know for sure that they're people that are active on LinkedIn because they've probably commented or liked a post yesterday or today. But at the same time, I know that there is a likelihood that they're interested in growing their network on LinkedIn, because if somebody is interested in growing that network, they're a lot more likely to accept your connection request and to have a conversation, right? Because they want to have more followers, they want to expand their network. But at the same time, there is also this psychological element to accepting a connection request and having a conversation, because you don't want to look bad. You don't want to be an hassle. You want to be nice to people. If somebody's nice to you, you at least respond to a few messages. And then you have, those are the best prospects that you can direct your cold outbound efforts toward.
Yeah, I love that last strategy because it doesn't require you to even have a big network on LinkedIn yourself. You don't
Oh, no.
necessarily have to be posting. It's you're capitalizing on some of the bigger creators who target a similar audience as yours, and you're just going in there and engaging with some of the people who engage with their content. And because of that, you're going to have context when you reach out to these people because both of you engaged with the post. And I'm guessing in your case too, you're probably very familiar with the topics that these creators cover. So you can even,
Oh, yeah.
in the conversation, you can even touch on those topics. So again, a lot more context and relatability that way.
Yeah, 100%. That's really the best way to go about it.
Okay, so Steph, if someone is listening to this and wants to learn more, what should they do next? How can they work with you?
Yes, I have really 2 products right now. So I recommend, if you want to know more about lead gen, and I have a free community where I have a fantastic training on what I call elegant lead generation. So just go to Steph, yes, I don't really know how to pronounce my family name for non-Italian speakers. So it's Steph, Curcio.com. That's my community. Go and join it. There's really fantastic training. I post new training every week, and there's a fantastic community. I think there's 230, 40 people on it. But if you feel that you really want to fast forward your lead gen on LinkedIn, if you really want to grow your business very quickly, I have an accelerator as well. Just send me a message and let's explore together if that might be a good fit for you.